It's the Silicon time on the Silicon channel. This is Fragments of Silicon.
All right, welcome to the Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining as always are Petty and Galix. Right, let us get to the weekly musings that we call the news. Galix, why don't you start us off this week?
Okay, we have visitors this week. My sister and her baby are up to visit for the week because her boyfriend is on a camping/hunting trip in the Adirondacks. Because apparently that's something some people like to do. So I took some time off from work to spend some time with particularly the baby and with my sister when she's around. So that's been good. I picked up a copy of Legend of Zelda, or excuse me, of Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment finally, because they finally got it in at the store that I have it. Let's see. I obviously don't have any work, although I do have some other things I need to take care of. I want to see if I can make some calls about a couple of technology things that I want to get done, but we'll see how that goes. Also, we're hoping to go to the Children's Museum sometime this week, so that could be fun. Let's see.
Don't strain yourself.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty uneventful aside from that. Video game wise, still playing Super Robot Wars Y and excited that they got the first DLC announcement. It's coming out end of next week, which is good because I was hoping to get at least the first one out before I was at risk of finishing the game. They also announced a DLC date for the first part of Pokemon Legends ZA, which I still need to play more of.
Oh, they also announced at the same thing that they also announced the first DLC for Super Robot Wars Y, featuring, of all things, the Big O.
Yeah, no, that was the first one I said.
Oh, sorry.
And the Big O is normal enough. It is an anime, even if they got Western cooperation for the second half. The weird one here is that since they made a Kamen Rider anime, they're finally putting Kamen Rider in Super Robot Wars.
I've been watching that. It's a lot.
It's okay. I mean, it helps if you watch double first.
Well, it's more just the acting. That exaggerated toku acting gets on my nerves after a while.
I mean, yeah, it'll do that. That's what it is.
I'm aware. It's one of the reasons I never got into toku.
Anyway, so yeah, they have had human-sized characters before from mech series like Tekkaman Blade. Tekkaman is like barely bigger than a person. And the last game 30, they had the Ultraman anime of the manga in it, and in that one, the Power Suit Ultramans do not get big.
I was about to say, one of Ultraman.
It's a distant sequel to the original Ultraman, with nothing else having happened in the meantime. And in that amount of time, the science patrol that he works for has developed power armors to deal with residual kaiju stuff. basically. And the main character is the original Ultraman's human host's son. Anyway. So yeah, looking forward to that and see how they handle that. And that is pretty much all I've got. I don't have a whole hell of a lot going on this week.
Well, that means you're up, Petty. What horrors from beyond the pale do you have for us this week?
I guess, do we want the decent stuff first?
I think we would like that, yes.
All right. So the eye is doing better. I can now look at computer monitors without wanting to defenestrate myself. So hooray for modern medicine.
Mm.
They have me on the steroid drops for 3 times a day now. So it's still going to take a while for it to be perfect. Like, if I actually went outside, the sun is still... Bright sunlight's still a no-go. But, like, at least I can look at my computer monitor, which is a vast improvement than what we were at, a week or 2 ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just until a few days ago.
Yeah. So that's good. Our house has a new hat, as I like to put it. They put the new roof on. It was kind of funny. They dropped off the materials Friday, and I was like, okay, so I guess we're gonna get a phone call when they're ready to install. Saturday morning, van, 6 dudes came to the house and went right back towards it. And for those of you who haven't been keeping up, we had somebody break into our garage last week. So someone almost met a shotgun. Because, a bunch of people just come onto your property unannounced. Yeah, so that was all handled. New roof is on the house. Monday we had them put the satellite dish back up, so all that's hunky-dory. And now for the continuing saga of insurance company Y. They're still trying to cancel our policy. Because apparently we don't have proper siding on the window we removed. And now they're trying to argue with us where the water damage in our own house was from the leaking roof. The picture that they supposedly have literally has a shadow that they're trying to say is the water damage. And there was also a crack in the plaster on our ceiling that has been there since before we moved in, and has possibly been there since before I was even born. They're trying to say that was caused by water damage, which, no. So, well, I'm at my Digimon regionals on Saturday. A friend of the family is going to come by and help put some basically plaster repair over that crack, and then they're probably just going to stucco over the board that's from that removed window, and hopefully they call that good enough. Because if we don't get this done by Sunday, let me check the calendar real quick. I think it's Sunday. Yeah, Sunday the 16th, then they're going to terminate our homeowner's insurance. And that's directly tied to the mortgage. So hopefully we can get this sorted out, because it'd suck to get evicted from our house after we literally just dropped, got a loan for like 30 some odd grand to put a new roof on it. So hopefully we can get that sorted out, keep the insurance and stuff. After everything's all said and done, probably investigate getting a new insurance provider because this is asinine. And yeah, only other thing I'm really working on is getting my deck ready for the regional event for Digimon this weekend. Since my vision is now decent again, I'd like to see about getting back with Time Stranger next week. It really depends on Ogre and Golex's availability and what day we actually want to start that. But yeah, that's something we can discuss in the coming period of time. I guess a little bit of gaming on my end. I've been playing some Power Watch Simulator 2 because it's one of those things. It's chill enough. I don't have to worry about it hurting my eyes, and just gives me something to zone out to. It's fun. I do like that you don't have to buy soap anymore because that was probably one of my biggest pet peeves with Simulator 1 is the soap cost money and it was all but useless. Now it's actually kind of useful and just regenerates over time. And I think that's it from me.
All right, then. All right, so it's my go. Let's see. I suppose I should start with program notes. A note about tonight's episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents. Mac has confirmed that he will not be joining us today, as he is encountering one of his way too frequent bouts of almost homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
It's related to the whole Amex rent situation he's been banging on about for the past few weeks. Apparently, it's still not solved. I'm sure he'll have all the details about it next week.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, he needs to sort that out by working some 12-hour shifts over at the Uber. Well, they don't really have a station. I guess station wagon.
I guess more patrol if you think about it.
Mm. Yeah, I think that works. Point is, he has to do work an actual job for actual money right now, and hopefully he doesn't get thrown out of his apartment.
Yeah, because that would suck.
Yes. So really don't have much more on that front right now. It's just it's
Happened
very
frequent enough
worrying.
you could set your watch by it.
Yeah, that scares me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that legitimately scares me. Because I'm worried about the time where it's like, it's not just a threat. He gets the 30 days notice, and then what then? Like,
Indeed.
very exasperating. Anyway, let's see. Also, since Petty's eye has been healed up enough, and as mentioned on Sunday, the lost week of reviews is now up on the YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should probably do that, because that's the permanent home of all these episodes, thanks to the Twitch changes.
Yeah, screw you, Twitch.
Yep. You can find that at youtube.com/@ShardShinjuku, the screen name that I never bothered to use in more formal settings. But it's all there, all archived. No playlist, because that would take a lot of time and effort. I just don't feel like investing right now. Maybe if there's ever more of an audience for that, sure. But until then, just type out the individual episodes.
I mean, it is something we can probably see about doing this because you can give it for podcast functionality, so it'd throw it through Google Podcasts so people can get to our show easier.
Right, but at the very least, that's a off-season endeavor because
Yeah.
that is going to take some time to invest in. Like specifically from my end, because I'm the one who would actually have to index everything.
Right.
So, that's a thing I can do when I'm not busy, having to email these people and play this game and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm not taking it off the table. I'm just saying, probably during the Christmas break here, if we're doing it. Anyway, let's see. I did see the eye doctor last week. He really, really wants to sell me some new eyeglasses. But the thing is, my eyes haven't changed enough, and the glasses he made for me are too good. Like, that's not a joke. It's like I'm on like year 3 or 4 of these glasses, and I still haven't had to get them changed. Like, which is why I'm taking his talk about, when I do have to get my next pair of glasses. So, my eye insurance changed a couple of years ago. It used to be under this one brand, one provider that my eye doctor took for everything. And then it changed to another that doesn't. They have like their own stores that they offer a discount. But my optometrist assures that they're substandard junk. Like, now he has ulterior motives to tell me this.
Yeah. Something monetary gain.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I actually have proof of his office's craftsmanship. I'm literally wearing them right now. Like I said, he made and I've dealt with cheapo glasses like from the Walmart. Not good. So it's tempting, but I'm actually waiting on something to happen to my eyes. My doctor says that it's going to be happening sometime in the next few years, that my vision's going to change in some way, and once that happens, I'll be needing new glasses. It's like I forget the details right now, but he assures me when it happens, I'll know, which is always wonderful to hear.
Moderately terrifying.
Well, it's like how you read words. Like, apparently I'll have to put them farther away. Something about my vision is going to change. I hesitate to use the word myopia because that's actually like the opposite of what he was talking about. I said, I don't.
Isn't the old one presbyopia, or is it just something else?
Possibly.
Or is presbyopia just the far one?
Possibly, but he assures me that's going to happen soon. Sooner or later, and that's when I'm going to need new glasses. So, not for nothing, but I'm going to wait for that event to get new glasses then.
Yeah, presbyopia is the age one, where you have a harder time with close objects as you get older.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is then. Because my age ain't what it used to be.
Really, whose is?
Time travelers, if they exist.
I mean, time travelers still age.
Right, but presumably they would be like whatever age that they time traveled from. Anyway, also people who can move at the speed of light.
Yeah. Curse you, speedsters.
Yes. Anyway, so that leaves most of the major checkups. I think the next one is my regular checkup with my doctor in December. Maybe that gets posted to January because December is going to, typically a busier time because of holidays and all that stuff. Let's see. Debating whether or not to contact my foot doctor and my dentist. Like my foot doctor, I haven't need to see for 3 years because it's been established what's happened with my feet, and it hasn't really changed year to year. No. The dentist, I need I stopped contacting them once they got in a row with my old dental insurance. Apparently, they weren't paying them.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, I need to see if enough time has passed that it's all been sorted out. Because I'm supposed to be eligible for 2 teeth cleanings a year. Haven't gotten that because once again, I got the message. My insurer and my dentist office are fighting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of SOL on my part. Anyway, let's see. In gaming news, I hit the part of System Shock, the remake, where I determined, nope, I'm not going to go do that. I'm going to play something else. It's the part where I have to go back to the 6 previous levels to get a code that's at the end of every node room.
Oh, you didn't know to already write that down?
Well, here's the thing. They don't tell you that until you get very close. Like on the engineering level, which is level 7, which is like the penultimate level. So it's like, no, this is why Pa Dugan's backtrack song exists, which I have posted into Discord. It's like, nope. I would not consider this to be good design. Not now, not in 1994. It's like, so I am playing other things now. Right now I'm trying out the Jurassic Park collection. Played a few levels of the Nintendo Entertainment System version of Jurassic Park, and honestly, surprisingly decent. It's not amazing. There are some flaws, like whoever was in charge of lining stuff up, they might need their vision checked or something. It's one of those games where things are very slightly misaligned.
Was that an issue in the original, or is this happened due to modern interpolation?
No, it's definitely an original. This is a problem on the NES.
All right.
The thing is,
sometimes that happens from the changed aspect ratio. They don't compensate that correctly.
That could be possible, but the aspect ratio seemed fine because it's in a square window, so it's 4:3. Like it seems to be maintaining proper aspect ratio. No, it's just whoever made this was, I don't know, slightly crook-eyed or something. Because it's like, when you line up the gun and the dinosaur, it kind of shoots off to the right, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oof.
Like in a way that shouldn't be doing that. Though, also considering this is Ocean Software, this is still hitting above par. They were a really, really bad developer 90% of the time.
I'm
Maybe
aware.
95%.
I lived through the 90s.
I'm just saying, if you haven't, like as bad as LJN, they just don't have the stink that company or Acclaim has, and they really should.
Yeah.
Probably more if you're European because, well, they were bigger there.
Yeah, I was about to say they were more of a European problem.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's about it for the news. So, merrily, we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Lady Data of Gothic Donut Games.
Hi, that's me.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay, I guess.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that business. And we begin by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
So I've been playing games since I was a baby, actually. Castlevania 3 was the first game I ever played in my life. I think I was 2 at the time. Um, and so that's a major influence, obviously, on me personally and professionally. Um, and then I started getting into game dev about 10 years ago, um, kind of as a hobby or just like learning how to do it. And it's in the last 2 years become more of like a professionally viable pursuit.
And was there a particular spark that made you make the jump from, amateur to professional?
Um, yeah, I mean, basically 2 years ago, I've been doing pixel art and programming and level design for 5 to 10 years just for free. But about 2 years ago, I was sitting in an indie dev Discord, and I just was we were talking about like the state of the industry and how frustrating it was, and I just kind of had a moment of like, I'm just gonna do it myself just to kind of prove a point. Um, and so I started making a Castlevania clone, and now it's been 2 years and it's almost done.
Like, I can understand. It's been a frustrating time in the games industry, to say the least. Like, um, but putting that aside for the moment, I suppose it's worth asking what sort of quote unquote amateur projects and pixel art and all that stuff did you do before you decided to make your own game?
Oh, sure. So, well, I guess the first game dev related thing that I got into was making maps for old PC games like Doom and Quake and Thief and Duke Nukem 3D. Um, I started messing with that about 10 years ago. Um, and I got pretty comfy with 3D level design that way. Um, and then, yeah, about 5 years ago, I kind of started learning pixel art and I started learning to code. I learned Python first, just by like reading a free book online. And then I started writing games that just ran in the terminal that were just like text adventures. And then I was gonna make a Dragon Quest clone, and I worked on that for about 8 months. That was I was making that with Pygame, which was a framework for Python. So it was basically just write the whole engine yourself. Um, and that didn't ship, but it did like give me a lot of practice with programming and art. So I got pretty comfy that way with this stuff. Um, I thought about getting into web dev for a while, but I found it kind of boring.
Mhm.
Then I was like messing with C for a while. Like I started reading like K and R C just for no reason, which was like a ridiculous thing to do. But um, I started writing like a Raycaster, and I thought about doing like a Wolf 3D clone for a while. I was gonna do like Wolf 3D with dinosaurs, which is comparable to if you've been playing the Jurassic Park collection, the indoors segments
Yep,
in this SNES Jurassic Park game.
yep. I
Um,
I haven't gotten to that game yet, but I played the SNES version back in the day, and I remember the first person segments.
yeah,
I
yeah, for
remember
a
them
while.
being very choppy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'd want it to run a little better than that, but uh, for a while I was working on a project like that, and I got most of the tech done, but I ended up dropping that one as well. And then finally I settled on the current project, which actually has gotten to the point of having like a public demo and Steam page and trailer and wish list. So it seems like it's going to actually be finished. which is nice.
I mean, uh, like, like, lost the train. Oh, right. Well, hopefully, yeah, nothing of untoward condition happens. So, but I suppose that's a good segue into what we actually have on display here, and that is Lady Dracula. Besides the obvious, I suppose, what is this game?
So Lady Dracula is where to start. It's a Classicvania. I'm trying to make a revival of the Classicvania genre, which is basically what Castlevania was before Symphony of the Night came out, because when Symphony of the Night came out in like 1998, it was obviously a runaway success, and Konami was like, okay, I guess we're just doing this now. And they kind of abandoned this format that they were doing in the 80s and the early 90s with Castlevania 1 and 3 and 4 and like Rondo and Dracula X. And those are like really good games. And I think it's a format that deserves to be appreciated. It's been abandoned for 30 years. So I'm trying to kind of bring it back a little bit. That's the central crux of it. But of course, we're adding a lot of iterations like um, accessible difficulty options, optional CRT filter, and some mechanical influences from like Donkey Kong and Yoshi's Island and Ninja Gaiden, as well as the art style has a lot of influence from stuff like Pathologic and Thief. And I've made the graphics like 99% authentic NES. Um, it's the real NES palette and resolution and color count limits. So it's like almost runnable on a real NES, probably graphically, except for like some of the sprites are gigantic and some of the weather effects are, too much, but it's like right in between like NES and SNES, probably graphically.
Right. If you were going to go for the authentic flavor, the large sprites would actually have to be background tiles.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and I do like some Mode 7 type stuff as well, which is more of like a SNES thing.
Yep. Like, I'm not sure if you could do scaling and rotation, like even on a software level. Certainly not to the extent that the Super Nintendo could do out the box.
Right.
But
Not
yeah,
dynamically. I mean, you can make things look like they're rotating, but
sure. But once again, Mode 7 rotation was a very specific thing. Like, you could do that in the software level on the Sega Genesis if you had the coding skills. But the Super Nintendo, that's literally the Mode 7 that they reference. Like, anyway. But yeah, speaking frankly, it is nice to see more games that homage and draw influence from the Classicvania titles, because I won't say we're completely bereft of those games. I mean, a good example is like the Bloodstained Curse of the Moon games.
Right.
But they are infinitesimal to the number of games that check off the Symphony of the Night influence. Like, or, insert any of the Igavanias here. Not saying I don't like those games, but, Castlevania was more than just the Metroidvania stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
well,
like
at
5.
the time, a lot of people had a lot of criticisms about the Classicvania formula, including its restrictions. It's just over the years, people have probably improved their ability to see some of those restrictions as
I
things that help breed creativity.
I think what it comes down to, at least in times past, is the era. Like, when we come to the PlayStation era, the time of the 2D action game is sunsetting.
Mhm.
That's kind of how Symphony of the Night sustained itself, by being a much, quote unquote, deeper game. Like,
Plus, slow. What you're ultimately looking at is slow, deliberate platformer with kind of awkward jumping controls and weird stair physics a lot of the time. Those are the main signature things of that some people might think about for the classic Castlevanias.
mm,
There
that
are a
does
lot of other good features, and those features are not actually entirely bad. It just, depending on the environment, they might be a little bit of a hard sell.
that does bring up a question I should ask, and that is, Lady Dracula's jumping physics. How much do they adhere to the Classicvania arc?
Sure. So I've made that kind of stuff optional. We're doing a difficulty system that I don't think anything like this has been done before, where the difficulty modes are tied to variables like if you take knockback damage or if you have control over your trajectory when you're in the air. So, like on an easier difficulty, you would have like air control and not get knocked back when you get hit. Whereas on like the harder mode, it would play more like NES Castlevania, where you don't have air control and you get hit one time and get knocked in a pit and die, right?
Yeah, the
Mhm.
Curse of the Moons did some of that, but I forget the exact settings.
I think it was the knockback they turned off.
Hmm.
And I think the
Like,
characters have different jumping physics or something.
they do.
Right.
Which is another question to be raised here. Is it just Lady Dracula here that you're controlling, or do you control multiple characters?
So you play as Lady Dracula, but I've added some Yoshi's Island or Banjo-Kazooie style transformation mechanics where you turn into like a bat or a spider or a ghost, and then you can kind of float around or climb on the ceiling or, blast around like in a Donkey Kong barrel. And that kind of gives variety to the traversal.
I did
Okay.
notice the Donkey Kong barrel segments in the trailers.
Right.
Um, okay. And is there going to be a sub-weapon system?
So there is kind of a sub-weapon happening. Um, they're candles that you can whip or hit with your sword, and then they drop onks, which are functionally hearts. And basically, the way I'm doing it is you get one sub-weapon, which is the throwing axe that flies in like that arc pattern.
Mhm.
I've made it a scythe, but it's basically the axe. I figured that's the most useful sub-weapon usually that everybody wants. It gives you some verticality. So I've just decided
Oh,
to bind that to a button and yeah.
and now I'm hearing the fiery debate over the sub-weapons again. Like,
Right.
there are people who will swear by the Holy Cross boomerang, um, or
The
the
axe is technically the most important sub-weapon because in Classicvanias, you have
uh,
no ability to attack above or below you, really. Admittedly, there are other sub-weapons that do significantly more damage to enemies, but the axe, if you had to pick one,
I'm telling you, there are ardents towards the Holy Cross and the Holy Water.
actually that's
Um,
not true. The book does also hit above and below you, and holy water hits below you.
yeah. Um, there are even adherents.
I should say that the axe is like the default in terms of giving you a new ability at a
Right.
reasonable power thingy.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that there are people who have their favorite weapon and will argue very passionately about this. I've seen it. Like, um, anyway, and I suppose while we're on this track, we should talk about the main weapon because I believe you mentioned a sword.
Yeah, so I have given the player the whip from Castlevania and also a sword that basically functions like Ninja Gaiden, and those are both bound to the face buttons along with the X and jump.
Okay, like gotta admit, it's a little weird to hear Ninja Gaiden being referenced in a Castlevania game. Like, just because I remember how those games controlled and all that. Like,
Right.
but I get what you're saying.
So wait,
Yeah,
what are the controls?
so basically, if
sorry, are you using 4 face buttons?
yeah, it controls like
Okay.
a SNES controller. They're a little bit. The weapons are kind of situationally advantageous. So like the whip gives you some reach, but it comes out slower, whereas the sword is short, but it comes out instantly. So yeah,
So for stabbing stationary enemies.
right.
Okay, and here's a question I have. Have you created any of the annoying enemies? The sine
Yeah,
waivers, the
I have. Yeah,
fleamen. Oh,
yeah. I have three different sine waves. I have a bat and a goat head and a Medusa head, and those are like increasing difficulty as you go through the game. You'll see these harder sine wave monsters, and then yeah, I've got skeletons that stand back up after you kill them, and yeah, some treasure chests that basically jump around like they're a mimic and they behave like the Fleamen.
my blood is rising already.
Yeah, well, that's why, I have the difficulty options. So if you don't want to get hit by a Medusa head and insta die, you can, have that option.
Duly noted. It's just, kind of like war flashbacks to trying to beat, level 2, level 4 in the original Castlevania.
Oh, sure.
Uh, and are the stages going to be timed like a Classicvania, or can you, take your time? Or is that dependent on the settings?
So the way I have it right now is you don't have a time limit, but I do think I'm going to have like a global timer for speedrunning support to give some amount of replay value.
Hmm. Okay, I can see that, and that definitely makes sense in a modern context.
Mhm.
I suppose the other way to do is do it like Castlevania 2.
Right.
For those who don't know, Castlevania 2 actually has 3 endings, depending on how fast you beat the game. Like, not a lot of people saw the first ending.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about adding that.
Hmm. I suppose it's something to consider. How far along is the game at this stage?
We're pretty far along. We've got most of the music done, most of the art is in, I think, and most of the systems are in place. So right now I'm finishing up the last of the background art, and then it's going to be mostly a matter of just kind of throwing it all into the engine and doing level design, which isn't super hard since it's all just 2D platforming.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping to ship early next year.
Okay. It sounds like it has a pretty good shot of making that window. Um,
Mhm.
and what engine are you using? Are you using Game Maker?
It's Godot.
Ah, Godot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how is working in Godot? We get so few people who
I
work in
think
that
you're like the third
particular.
or fourth person who works in Godot we've had.
Like, it is getting more popular, but adoption is taking its time because people are still working on the projects and all that stuff.
Mm.
hmm Um, it's okay. I I mean, all these engines have certain little like UX quirks that can be annoying at first, but it took me like, I don't know, 2 weeks to get comfortable with it. It's okay for, I'm on Godot 3, which was all right for this project because it's a 2D game. When I've tried to use Godot 3 for 3D stuff, that's when I started hitting like limitations on like its features. But I think Godot 4 is out now, and I think that's a lot better for 3D games. So I think it's in a good place now.
Yeah, I can't speak to that since, as I said, I can't think of anyone we know that uses Godot for 3D stuff, at least not yet. I'm sure
Mm.
we'll meet somebody who works in the medium. I'm like, anyway, so who's doing the music? Are you?
So I do everything except for the music. The musician is a friend of mine named Mikhail, and he's been kind of like a goth DJ for years and years.
Ooh,
His stage name is Mikhail A.G. Kanov. I tag him a lot in like my Blue Sky posts. He has like a Spotify and like all that stuff,
okay.
or a Bandcamp, or
Now, is he what? Now, is what he's providing to the game different than his usual music, or is it in line with what you would be able to hear at one of his shows?
it's pretty much just his style. It's a kind of a synth wavy, you know, if it, if a Tron movie was like 10% more goth, that kind of a vibe.
I think that might be Ares' soundtrack.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, oh, right. I almost skipped over this question, but will there be mysterious wall meat?
I'm undecided on
Oh,
the mysterious wall meat mechanic, but that's a popular feature, so I guess I probably should include that.
I mean, I suppose it's up to you, but yeah, like I can definitely foresee a lot of people asking, where's the wall chicken, and so on and so forth. So
Right.
Really screw with them, make it a wall salad.
Yeah. That's just tricky because then it's like if I'm balancing around that, then it's like I'm expecting people to like look for secrets and they'll be annoyed about that. So I don't know.
well, I'm like, people are going to do that regardless.
Right.
It, you know, not just because that's kind of how gamers are trained, but Classicvania had it.
Right.
Especially like Castlevania 1. Not just the wall chicken, but there were spots where you could kneel and a treasure would arise and would give you like 1,000 points or 2,000 points.
Right.
So, and let me see here. Right, pricing. What sort of price structure have you settled on, if any?
Um, sorry, my people are being loud. Um, it's gonna be under $20 for sure. Um, and it's gonna be more than 10, probably more than 15.
Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean 15, by the way. Just, in between 10 and 20.
Right.
And is this game launching on Steam only, or is there going to be like an itch.io version?
Right now I'm planning on doing Steam and itch, and we also have GOG support.
Hmm,
And if I can
nice.
get it on like the Switch, that would be cool, but I'll just see what Nintendo says.
I mean, I could see this game being on the Switch, certainly.
Right.
And I suppose another thing that we should ask is, what's the actual story of this game. Why is why is Lady Dracula doing the things that she does, and who is she fighting in this game?
Yeah, so the story of Lady Dracula is basically the story from Symphony of the Night or the Castlevania anime, but gender swapped. So if Alucard and Dracula were women, and then so the actual Dracula is dead. He was killed by Van Helsing, and then Lady Dracula, his widow, uh, is kind of the one who's gone mad and decided to like kill all the humans in the world about it. And then you play her daughter, Lady Dracula II. So you're trying to go and stop her from doing that.
Sounds like good enough motivation for an action platformer.
Yeah.
How many stages are you aiming to have here, and how long, do you think a first-time playthrough is going to take?
So I'm targeting right now, it's like 9. Okay, so I should explain the structure. Um, the game's composed of levels, and levels are composed of like 2 or 3 stages. So I'm doing 9 levels, and then the same 9 levels again, but upside down. So it's like 18 levels times 3-ish. So you end up with, oh, I don't know, a lot of stages. I'm trying to make it about several hours long. I'm hoping it'll be like 4 or 5 hours long at least. And then I'm trying to do some replay value as well with like the difficulty levels and like the speedrunning stuff.
And are you looking into any sort of outside of the speedrunners mode and stuff like that? Any other like bonus modes? Something like Richter mode in the Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Offspring and such.
Yeah, I've thought about doing something like that. I think a Van Helsing mode would be cool. I also might save that for like a sequel or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something like a boss rush might be possible. It really just depends on how long it takes me to finish up the core game.
Okay. Right then. So I think I've asked my gamut of questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think it's a pretty alright game. I never was super big on Classicvania, but I was playing through the demo on screen. It's pretty alright.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think it looks pretty good. Sorry, I was muted. It looks pretty good. I am curious to compare it to some of the other ones, but it certainly looks like it's at least worth a shot.
Yeah.
Right then. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's...
Sorry, I played the Curse of the Moon games a decent amount, and there's a lot of things that remind me of it, mostly in a good way, but just like also in its familiar way.
Yeah, I actually haven't played those yet, which is kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, there's like Curse of the Moon, and there's like 1 or 2 other indie Classicvanias on Steam, but for the most part, there's like not a lot of these. So, whereas you have like 1,500 Metroidvanias. No.
We also do game reviews. We were getting so many Metroidvanias at some point we were actually having to refuse them.
Right.
Adam knows.
A little
I'm the one who
exaggerated.
facilitates all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's another reason why I'm glad to see another Classicvania homage. It's something different, relative to the indie influence pool. So, indeed, on that note, the game is Lady Dracula. It is coming to Steam and itch in, let's say, Q1 of 2026. for a price between 10 and 20 USD. You can go and wishlist it on Steam today and also play the demo to try before you, I suppose, wishlist at this stage, but get a feel for the game before it releases. So be sure to go do that today. And Penny, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So I'll be honest, what we were going to talk about here was going to be RuneScape until about 12 o'clock, or whenever Valve launched their Steam Machines trailer.
Just out of the fucking blue.
Valve does that. They've done it before. Like I think that's how the Steam Deck got announced.
I mean, they don't have any particular reason to adhere to anyone else's schedule, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
True enough. But yeah, so Valve has shaken the gaming world by announcing their Steam Machine 2.0 initiative. Because this is not the first time Valve has done this.
Yep.
It's just,
and again, it's Microsoft's fault.
Right. But that's getting into the history of this initiative. Because Valve, for about 10 years, probably a bit more, has been worried that Microsoft will change the architecture of Windows to make it favor Microsoft.
Yeah. This all came from a leaked version of Windows 8.
Because vertical integration is fun. Sorry.
It came from basically a leaked version of Windows 8 that basically you couldn't run anything that wasn't from the Windows Store. That's how all of this started, is the, I guess, perceived implication that Microsoft could lock everything to getting it off their store as you would with, say, an iPhone. Android's weird because you can get other app stores if you so desire. But specifically iPhone, if you want apps, you're getting them off the App Store.
Right. And on that note, one of the things attached to this new Steam machine is the ability to play Android games.
Yes, because it runs ARM, the same thing that is in your Android phone and or iPhone's basically processor.
Yes. And it's also important to remember, much like Linux, Android is open source. Which is why it'll be
Steam OS is built off of, I want to say, Debian Linux, but I don't have that information in front of me at this time.
Possibly, but do keep in mind that Valve has been building their own custom Linux layer in Proton.
The thing with Linux is there are three or four main branches that all the different versions of Linux derive from. Like Ubuntu is Debian, Pi OS that runs Android Pies are Debian. Red Hat's its own thing, though it's relatively deprecated outside of the private or outside of the business sector. There are a couple semi-proprietary mother or mainframe versions of Linux.
I'll take your word for it.
I could go on for a while on this. You're talking to computer tech. Just be glad Mac's not here.
Right, but Linux is its own special brand of crazy that I want sectioned.
Just because people are crazy enough to make their refrigerators run Doom.
Among other things. Like, look, Linux people are just, in general, insufferable.
Yeah.
Intolerable.
Yeah, it looks over at my laptop that still has Linux on it. Yeah. To be fair,
like,
that was more of a safety, oh god, Windows just died.
hmm.
And I'm just at school, I don't have anything to fix this.
I've always kind of wanted to, but it seems like too much effort.
They go with either Ubuntu or Mint, and it's relatively Windows-like enough.
Mm. I'm just talking about like managing like what stuff you've got on it.
Yeah, go with Mint or Ubuntu. It's close enough to Windows. Unless you're a power user, you won't notice much of a difference.
Mm.
Hold on. Mac is communicating stuff, but yeah, anyway, so going back to Steam Machines 1.0, they just kind of announced the initiative, like with a bunch of partners, and it just kind of happened. And
I think the only one that made it out into the wild was the Alienware one, right?
I don't remember. Like it was such a fart in the wind that I kind of didn't pay attention to them.
Literally is the reason why it died is the opposite of the reason why it lived. That people found out that Microsoft wasn't locking down Windows 8, so they didn't really have to do that.
That was one reason. It's also Valve didn't know what the fuck they were doing back then.
Proton wasn't ready. It sure as shit was not ready for prime time.
No, Proton didn't even exist. It's like I'm trying to remember. Like I think Big Picture Mode was a thing by then.
Big Picture Mode was what ran on the Steam machines. It literally booted up into that. Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, this was literally Valve's first hardware initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, that's why the Steam Machine 1.0 is actually important, because it wasn't it was a failure, but it was also a learning experience.
Mm-hmm. It also gave us the controller that a lot of PC gamers will, stand by is the original Steam controller.
I can't really speak to that because I never got one of those.
I have friends who love theirs. I never got one because I didn't have the money on hand when they were doing the closeout sale for them.
And I suppose that does also bring us to the present and the Steam, because the Steam machine was just one of the 3 devices and that Valve announced today. And I'm actually shocked that Valve managed to count to 3 on something. I'm like, but here we are. Because not just do we have the new Steam machine, and we'll get into specs a little bit later, but we've also got the new Steam controller. And how do I put this? I'm kind of disappointed by the new Steam controller. Mainly because it's so...
I need to hold it before I can judge.
Well, just because it's so conventional. Like,
that's true.
It's another Xbox style twin stick controller. Only this one has 2 digital mouse pad touch pads.
And that's what a lot of people like about it is you don't need to reach up and grab a mouse. You can just do it all from the controller sitting back.
Right. And that it's going to kind of depend on how all the ergonomics are on this thing, because
I need to hold it.
Right, but just from the pictures here,
I will say off the top, I'm less of a fan of left stick low.
Also, Petty, you should probably get the Valve trailer of these things on screen.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Does Valve even have an actual YouTube
Yes,
page?
yes, I posted the Steam trailer, the Steam Machines trailer in the Discord this afternoon.
Let me go hunt that down. We've been memeing on things all day in the Discord.
Right, but the thing I don't like from the look here is how squished all the traditional controller parts are in the upper section. Like, the D-pad is right next to the right stick, and both sticks, like everything looks just squashed next to these two touchpads. And I guess it is going to depend on how it feels in one's hands, because Valve has gotten a lot better at designing things. But I like the comment. The comment here: if it weren't for those touchpads, it'd be hard to distinguish this gamepad from a lot of other modern controllers. So yeah, at first glance, it just looks like a modern controller, but with huge touchpads. The thing is, Valve was really hyping up the analog sticks.
They're
Because
using Hall
apparently
effect sensors, yes?
magnetic sensors, yeah.
The Hall effect, yep.
Yeah. Like,
Which
so
allegedly prevents stick drift.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with stick drift is because things are grinding. Nothing grinds with a magnetic stick.
right. That's kind of
Yeah,
the
but
point.
magnets aren't actually flawless.
Yeah. And apparently the touchpads will have haptic motors under them for HD tactile feedback.
So on screen now they're showing the Steam controller for anyone watching the visual element.
Yeah, that's probably a decent size, but well, again, it's hard to judge how people's hands are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said,
It's got dual touchpad, HP haptics, gyroscopic controls, the legendary L4 and L5 buttons.
Yeah,
L4, just L?
I'm assuming there's also going to be a right one too. They're in the grips.
Oh, those are the underside.
Yep.
The, middle
they got
and ring finger triggers.
Yeah, they have them on there now. Cap.
Yeah.
Sense thumbsticks. Okay. And then they're also, customizable. And yeah, they're going over the thumbsticks. Oh, what the hell are those pogo pins for on the back? Anyway, oh, 35 hours of playtime is not bad.
Yep. And I would be remiss if we don't mention the third device, the one that's getting the least amount of attention, but maybe the biggest game changer. Like, I don't know, we'll have to talk to some VR developers about that. I'm sure we'll get one on the program again sooner or later, but that's the Steam Frame.
All right.
Which
I guess real quick, they are going into the hardware, like the box, the Steam machine.
Well, presumably the controller is usable for other PCs too. It's not just for the.
Windows will treat it as just a standard X input controller.
What people are jokingly referring to as the GameCube.
Yes. I guess something to note with the Steam machine here is it's targeting 4K 60 FPS on all current Steam games. Which impressive if you can pull that off.
So let's talk about the specs.
Yep.
Because this being connected to Valve, it being a PC device, of course, people are poring over the specs and honestly having some meltdowns.
Shall I go into it?
Yes.
This motherfucker runs ARM.
Not just ARM, but I'm talking about the actual PC architecture specs.
Yeah, it has a AMD, basic AMD graphics, which is fine, honestly. And then, where was the actual spec sheet? We don't want to see the Steam frame yet. Yeah, that has the fancy little magnetic plate. Yes. Semi-custom AMD GPU, which is basically what's running in the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. It's probably a different chip than that.
But it's aiming for comparable.
Yes, it's basically aiming for what the Series X and possibly PS5 Pro.
Okay, to put it in PC terms, the specs are of a mid-range PC in the year of 2025. And that's the part that's having some of the PC heads freaking out. Because, it's not the latest and greatest chipset.
It's
Even though
still good enough.
that's so much PC hardware.
Also, there shouldn't be a lot of performance overhead if it's pretty much just for games.
Not only that, it's running Linux, not bloated Windows bullshit. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck performance-wise.
That's variable from what I understand because Linux is so temperamental.
I guess it depends on how well it's been optimized through Proton.
Right. Once again, that's kind of a problem because so few developers actually do Linux prioritization.
Well, and if your game can be run on the what's it called, the handheld
Steam Deck.
Yes, Steam Deck, then it should be more than fine to run on this in even better performance.
Right. This is basically the big boy version of the Steam Deck.
Yes.
And it's actually kind of a throwback to ye olden times where you had the handheld and the big console, which was more powerful.
Yeah.
Not as powerful as the latest and greatest PCs, but it was powerful enough to run games decently.
So from what people have been mentioning, it should be able to run most games currently on Steam very well. You might not always get the 60 FPS or the 60 FPS 4K like they're touting on everything, but you should get plenty playable frame rates. And they're also talking about the you can use this to remote play to your lower end laptop, your tablet, your phone, and the Steam Deck and the Steam Frame, the VR device. Oh, this motherfucker.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Steam Frame.
I like how they're trying to position this as a not only purely VR, but you can also use it to play regular games in basically a giant screen TV.
Right, but okay, so here's where things get interesting. This is going to operate independently of a PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have this kit, you don't need an accompanying computer, which is a break from previous Valve tech.
Yes.
Like I forget what their PC dedicated VR goggles are called. But Okay, so I'll get to the brass tacks here. This is being positioned in the same field as the MetaQuest.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dedicated standalone VR goggles market. Like, now, will this be a game changer? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was. The Valve Index.
The positioning it to let it also play non VR games will help adoption.
Yes.
Because that was the biggest issue with making somebody want to buy a original VR platform, is all it did was VR. Unless you did some real janky stuff. But this one, it's natively there. You don't have to screw around with all the jank. You just pick it up and you can either play your Steam library on the headset itself or connect it to your PC and play non-Steam games from that.
Yes. So this is going to have 2K LCDs. That is to say, it's going to be running at 2160 by 2160, which is twice as many pixels as the Valve Index and puts it in line with the MetaQuest 3. And it's also going to have what they call the pancake lenses. That's stuff that isn't VR for those who aren't familiar with the parlance. And we'll have a configurable refresh rate of between 72 hertz and 120 hertz with an experimental 144 hertz mode, just like the Index. So it sounds like it's going to be actually a bit more powerful than their previous generation of hardware, which was actually a complaint about the MetaQuest stuff, or at least the MetaQuest 2. Like it wasn't as powerful as, dear God, it's been so long. I've forgotten what they renamed the Oculus Rift stuff to.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Like there's Meta's standalone VR stuff. It wasn't as powerful as their room scale, big boy, full kit VR. Which, duh. Like if you're going that high, usually, yeah. But enough has probably changed and miniaturized where this is more cost effective. I can only speculate because I'll be honest, we're talking about a part of the industry that we occasionally talk to, but we're really not focused on.
Right.
Like, so yeah, Valve is stepping up its hardware game. And another thing, unlike Steam Machines 1.0, Valve is handling these items internally. That's one of the things I think they learned from doing, farming the specs out 3DO style. It's just that that didn't really work out all that well. Now, as far as how much of an impact this is going to make, there's a key thing we don't know yet on any of these products.
Is it the price?
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know how much this is going to cost.
Well, we also don't know how upgrade friendly, if at all, like the Steam machine will be.
I assume that's where the semi-customizable line is coming from.
It's semi-customized, not customizable.
Right.
Steam had AMD do some special sauce.
But that's less concerning than the price, because the price is going to determine whether or not this can actually hang with actual consoles, or if it's going to be like an upscale novelty like the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Yes, I know people
It's
like
what
their
we'd like
Steam
to say,
decks, and
except
it's
for they
proven to
keep
be
jacking the
very
prices of
popular.
console.
It's still an expensive novelty compared to the fucking sales juggernaut that is the Nintendo Switch.
They do seem to keep jacking the prices of consoles, though.
So ditto the Steam frame and the Steam controller. I think it's all going to be on the expensive end because, quite frankly, that's where all this stuff is right now.
Well, like
Not
looking
just
at
because of tariffs.
they still have the Steam, the older Steam Link or Steam Deck stuff, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
650 is not bad for the high end model.
Right. But are they going to charge $650 for that cube over there?
Yeah.
If they do, once again, that puts it in the realm of curio. Because that's $150 more than a PlayStation 5 Pro.
I thought the PS5 Pro got jacked up to almost 800 now.
I'm like, that depends. I think that depends on the territory.
PS5 Pro.
Like I said, they do be jacking up those prices.
The PlayStation 5 is $720 in the US.
Huh.
And that's with nothing else. So yeah. If it's the sub $700 bracket, Microsoft and Sony better Microsoft and Sony better be fucking terrified. Specifically Microsoft, because they have not been doing well the past couple generations.
Well, Microsoft's already they basically waved the white flag because all their games are coming to fucking PlayStation. Like, Halo is coming to PlayStation, and dear God, like, it's been bad, just intolerable times in Xbox land. Like, anyway, so the Valve kit here shows potential, but we really need to see the dollar tag before any judgments can really be made.
Right. Because if this rolls up at the under even $800, because it's still more powerful than either the Xbox and the PlayStation 5 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
If it rolls up on the lower side of 800, we might have a contender. Because you get the advantage of having all of your Steam games. Where if you upgrade from well, I guess this generation's a bit because they were able to use last gen, but like you can still play just about anything on this that you already have.
Indeed.
You don't have to wait for a remaster and buy it again. If it's compatible with SteamOS, it's ready and waiting. I guess another thing we need to know with the Steam Machine is, will it let you install Windows if you so desire?
Right.
Because if you can crack this thing open and put Windows on it in dual boot SteamOS and Windows, that removes any barriers you had before. Because there are still specifically games that require secure launchers, like Final Fantasy XIV, for example, is probably never going to be Steam Deck compatible because of the security features in it. If they let you put Windows on this, that barrier goes away, and this becomes exceedingly dangerous for the console market.
Right. Anyway, so I think that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. So coming up on the week ahead, no Friday show. So coming up on the Sunday reviews, we're having reviews of Orbis, Go-Kart Racing, The House of Tesla, and Zombies Overloaded. So be sure to look for that, and be sure to join us over on the MSP channel for Moonhawk Studios Presents, which is happening soon. And as always, if you enjoyed tonight's episode, be sure to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the YouTube page, and hit the notification buttons and do all that good business. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.